All right, y'all. So I'm going to go ahead and work on some of this power mapping. And you already see I have all of it all set up. That's my pre-read. I kind of know what I'm looking for. And now let's go ahead and look. All right, I'm going to go back to the question, what was humanism and what effect did it have in philosophy, education, attitudes towards politics, and writing history? Mr. Wassinger clearly just wants us to identify what humanism is. Cool. We have individualism and secularism. These are two were noticeable in intellectual realm. Indian matured for the next 2 centuries. Italy was a cultural leader. The new Italian culture was relatively the human. Was literally. All right. So right there, I have a kind of a basic definition of humanism. I'm a little frustrated as a reader that individualism and secularism wasn't defined right there. A little heads up, if the words are bold, they are in the glossary. I am going to go ahead and push on. I'm going to think about, I think I'm going to go ahead and just push on. But humanism is a literary movement associated with the Renaissance. And how did I know that? I knew that because it says it right there. And now I think probably as a ninth grade reader, I'm like, I'm not quite sure what a literary movement is, but that's cool. I have a basic definition. Probably Mr. Wassinger tomorrow will have a lot more. So here we go. I'm going to jump here now. The Renaissance humanism was an intellectual movement based on the study of classical literary works of Greek and Rome. Oh, I'm going to add that. I want to add that because that's kind of fits here. So what is it? It's an intellectual moment. So even though it said up there, I like this better definition, intellectual movement on the study of classical literary work of Greece and Rome. Why did that jump out at me more than the original definition? It's a classical, isn't it? So now I'm like, oh, what did Mr. Wassinger say? Mr. Wassinger said, according to the Renaissance, all knowledge and truth was found during when? Yeah, absolutely. The Greek and Roman world. So this one, I'm going to underline that because I think I like that definition better. Just off this is just me reading. The central importance of literary preoccupations in Renaissance. Here's the evidence in the professional. Got that. I'll just read through some of the teachers. So I see kind of all of these occupations were largely secular. I wonder again if I'm thinking that's obviously important. I'm going to go ahead and push on just because I have a limited time to do my homework. I liked what I just picked up, but now we're going to talk about the emergence of humanism. First thing we see is Petrarch has often been called the father of humanism. Oh, that's probably really. All right. Petrarch rejected his desire to become a lawyer. I don't care about that, but it's fine. Took him a literary career. Although he lived in Avignon, don't care. Most of his last decades were spent in Italy, and guess where princes? With his usual lack of modesty, he once claimed, some kings of our time have loved and cultivated my friendship when I was a guest. That's interesting, but literally doesn't add. I want to know about emergence of humanism. I see he's famous, but I don't know why. All of that is not really relevant. So now I'm going to come here. Petrarch did more than any other individual in the 14th century to foster the development. That's what I want. He was the first to characterize the Middle Ages. First to characterize the Middle Ages as a period of darkness. Believe medieval cult was ignorant. I like that. Now, all of a sudden, I realize he's the father of humanism. Remember, Renaissance is the birth of the modern world. And all of a sudden, we begin to realize, he's the guy that identified the Middle Ages as bad. So that's cool. I like that. I'm not sure if I can highlight. Can I highlight here? I don't know. Doesn't seem so. But I wish I could. All right. So we see that. So Petrarch's interest in classics led him, and remember, we know the classics, Greco-Roman, led him to a quest for the forgotten. Look at that. So he is on a quest, and I love that word, on a quest for forgotten Latin manuscripts and ransacked, ooh, I like that, monasteries to find texts. All right. So I kind of, yeah, so that's cool. So we got that. We said monastic libraries. I'm so here. It's perfect. And I really like that. And I like the word ransacked. And if you don't know what that looks up, you might want to look that word up just because I think it should be in your vocabulary. That kind of in his preoccupation with the classics, and Petrarch worried at times if he was attentive to his spiritual needs. That's interesting. Worried like that. So we do this. Let's see. His qualms, however, did not prevent him from inaugurating the humanist emphasis on the use of pure classical Latin, making it fashionable for humanists to use Cicero as a model for prose and Virgil for poetry. And as Petrarch said, he said, Christ is my God. Cicero is the prince of language. And, when I think about that, I think it's kind of connects to his worldly spiritual needs. I might not know totally about that. I'm gonna guess if I'm a ninth grader, that clearly is a cool quote. It clearly looks like that. You may not know who Cicero was, but I do think you can have a hankering that maybe that deals with antiquity. If not, it's okay. But that's cool. So now all of a sudden, the emergence of humanism began with Petrarch as the father of humanism. He characterized the Middle Ages as darkness, or the Dark Ages. He was on a quest for forgotten Latin manuscripts and ransacked monasteries because remember, what did the humanists think? All truth and knowledge was found when? Greco-Roman world. Now all of a sudden, he's ransacking monasteries because he believed who hid it? The churches. If you don't know what a monastery is, that's fine. We'll get that later. But yeah, that's it. So now all of a sudden, he worries about his spiritual needs because he's really worldly. He likes his intellect. But now all of a sudden, am I going to hell? Oh, wait a minute. Christ is my God. Cicero is my prince of language. That becomes his moral justification. And pull that out. I think you could pull much of that out. But you notice I kind of read through some of that stuff and I'm like, none of this is really important to what? The emergence of humanism. Now, I'm going to jump to the next element, humanism in the 15th century. I'm going to come here, I'm going to hit there. In Florence, the humanist movement took a direction to the beginning of the 15th century. I love, this is my favorite page of the reading, of course. And then this is a good one too. Florentine. So now we see Florentine giving rise to what modern scholars, one modern scholar called civic humanism. 14th century humanists described the intellectual life of one of solitude. They rejected family and a life of action. In the busy civic world of Florence, however, intellectuals began to take a new view of their roles. In the classical Roman Cicero, who was both a statesman and an intellectual, became the model. Here we see our next name, Leonard Bruni. Now, I see that civic humanism. I'm going to keep that here. I know kind of where it goes, but I need to know what that word is. I'm a little frustrated as a reader, but now I'm going to go. But I know Leonard Bruni is going to be important because he's there. He was a what? He was a humanist. I'm going to just, where was that? Humanist. Was a humanist. What does it say? I lost it. And humanist and Florentine patriot. That's an interesting element. Now I'm going to see here, he wrote a book. It's called The new Cicero. That's going to be clearly important. Books are always important. And when I see this, he waxed enthusiastic about the fusion. So here I'm going to do fusion of political action in Cicero's life. I like that. So it is a biography of Cicero with a focus on what? On his political action and literary creation. That's kind of cool. So now all of a sudden I begin to see the new Cicero. He's an ancient Roman. I kind of broke through that. And now this new biography written by Leonard Bruni really points out it's about political action and literary creation. And then I look up here and served. So from Bruni's time on, Cicero served as an inspiration of the Renaissance idea about, let's see if I can copy that. Copy. I really like that. I want to hit that. Let me go ahead. I'm doing copy as plain text and see what happens. The Renaissance ideal that the duty of an intellectual to live an active life for one state. That I think Dr. Spivoglu is really focusing on that. And won't lie to you, that's actually what civic humanism. But I'm going to leave it like this right now. And individually only grows to maturity, both intellectually and morally, through the participation in the life of the state. I like that. Civic humanism reflected the values of urban society. Humanists came to believe that their study of humanities should be put to serve the state. It is no accident that the humanists served the states as chancellors. So when I think of civic humanism, all of a sudden, I think by this time I'm looking at this going, all right, the belief that intellectuals should serve the state. I like that. I'm going to let Mr. Wassinger kind of help me out with that. But as a student, I'm like, all right, that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. I got that. All right. So I got enough there. Also evident in humanism was the first half of the 15th century was a growing interest in classical Greek civilization. Wait a minute. We've been talking about Rome and Latin. This is interesting. One of the first Italian humanists to gain a thorough knowledge of Greek was Leonard Bruni. Wait a minute. We're already talking about Leonard Bruni. So I'm going to back this out. So I'm going to write Latin, and then that's going to become indented. This is just how I would do it. You don't have to. And now all of a sudden, learn ancient Greek. That's interesting. I wonder what that means, right? And he became an enthusiastic pupil of a Byzantine scholar. Don't care about his name. This guy's not that important. Who taught from Florence. Humanists eagerly pursued the works. Ooh. All right. Pursued works of Plato and Euripides, Sophocles, to sit down. So now all of a sudden, all right. So now all of a sudden, I'm getting a good idea here. So now all of a sudden, all of whom were ignored in the High Middle Ages as irrelevant. So now all of a sudden, I begin to realize Leonard Bruni clearly built upon Petrarch's work as he developed the. Oops. I should have said the new. I misforgot that. The new Cicero. He published that. He developed civic humanism, but he also learned Greek. And that is going to be really important. And I think right there, I have enough. I have an understanding. So now I'm going to come here. I'm going to hit enter. And who's the next one? A consciousness of being humanist had emerged. That was especially evident in the career of Lorenzo Valla. All right. He was brought up in Rome, educated in both Latin and Greek words. Eventually, he achieved ambition of becoming a papal secretary. secretary. That is a little bit. I'm going to put a question mark there because I thought they were getting away. I need to ask the teacher that. What does that mean? And then I'm going to be like, his major work, which Mr. Watson has already said is always important. All right. And it defined, it says, an effort to purify medieval Latin and restore Latin to its proper position over the vernacular. Now, I like that. If I'm a ninth grade reader, I've written there, I know what Latin is. I kind of understand what antiquity was. I might not know what the vernacular is. I'm gonna highlight that. I'm just underlined. So that Mr. Watt, I'm gonna ask that, what is the vernacular? I think that's important. But again, we see that. And I'm going to finish this up with the treatise examined the proper use of canon, created a new standard. Early humanists had tended to take classical models as any other author, including Christians who had been written before the 7th century. Valla identified different stages. Identified different stages in the growth of the Latin lingua, accepted only the Latin of the 1st century. All right, different stages and accept only the last century of the. All right, different stages. The last century of the Roman Republic. All right, and the first of the empire. Now, there's something he's accepting there, but now I kind of have this idea, and now I'm about to go into the second part. I'm going to let you power map that yourself. You got some things, but I wanted to point out that is my power map. You've heard me kind of think, you've heard me read. I do read probably much faster than you. I'm 55 years old. I've been doing a lot of this throughout the last 30 years of my career. I don't expect you to read as fast as I am, but my expectation is that you're able to kind of begin to think about what's important and what's not. I hope I've done a decent enough job of getting rid of this bad stuff. We'll see. Good luck. Have a great day.